Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. This is your girl Angel from Simply Angel Teal, and of course, as you can see here, we're going to be making these fingerless gloves, and they absolutely are beautiful. I'm using the puff stitch, and I have double crochet stitch right here and a single crochet in the back loop, so there's a few stitches that we're using to attain this type of look. But yeah, so this is pretty much what the video is going to be about. So let's go ahead and talk about what we need, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay everyone, so before we get started with the project, I'm going to show you all the materials that I'm using for it. And as you can see here, I have my yarn, and this yarn I've used before for my beanie or hat, okay, or I think other things as well, but I've come to like it, so I use it quite often now. But this is pretty much Impeccable glitter by Loops and Threads. It's 97% acrylic and 3% other fiber, and this is called Teal in terms of the color. The color is teal. It's a medium weight number 4, and recommended hook size is a 5mm crochet hook or H8 US. And then all of your measurements are right here in terms of how much you want to get, and this is how much this contains here. Okay, I have my 5mm crochet hook here. I have my scissors as well as my darning needle. And this is everything that I need. So I'm going to put all the details of this in the description box below. Go ahead and check that out before you get started. But right now, let's go get started. All right, so to go ahead and get started, I'm going to leave a long tail here so I can use it to sew my work together. And as you can see, I'm leaving quite a lot because we're working, we're not going to be folding our rim of the wrist to and then work in a circle for the rest of the wrist warmer. We're going to actually work it the long way. So I'm going to show you why, how. But in the meanwhile, just make sure you're leaving a long tail. And this is also an option, by the way. You don't have to do these. I just tend to do that so that I don't have to worry about running out of yarn and not being able to have enough to join it. Okay, so I leave that there, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna do a slip knot. So do it however you find it comfortable or the easiest, or just however you do it, because we all do it different ways. And then when I have that, I'm going to do a chain of 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay, and this is usually the length of how much you want to cover this section of your wrist. So if you were to take that chain and put it just right along your wrist, then you're kind of determining how long you want it. If you wanted this to be much longer, then you increase the number of your stitches, and if you want it to be shorter, you would shorten the number of your stitches. So that's pretty much what this section here means. Okay, and then we're going to start our first row, and then after that I will show you the second row, which is a repeat row for this section of the wrist warmer. Okay, so after 13 stitches, we're going to kind of turn our work like this so we can see the front of the chain here. This is the back of the chain. That's how different it looks. And we're going to skip this first one. In the second one here, we're flipping our work and grabbing the back of the chain like that to do our single crochet. And then we're going to go into the second stitch after that and grab the back, the lumpy section of the back of the chain here, and doing our single crochet. And again, we're going to do this all the way to the end. And since we started with 13 chains and we skipped the first chain to start this row, we're going to end up with 12 stitches by the end of this row. So go ahead and finish this and come back so we can start row 2 together. Okay, so that is the end of our first row. I have my 12 stitches completed here, and to start row 2, I'm going to do a chain of 1 and turn. And then we're going to do a single crochet stitch right after the chain 1, but in the back of that stitch. So you're grabbing the back loop only, and then repeat that in the next stitch. Okay, and then so on and so forth. So you're just going to grab the back loop of the stitch and do your single crochets. And this is because we're trying to create a ripple effect to this part of the wrist warmer. And you do this all the way to the end. And for me, when I get to the end, I go through both loops. And if you don't like that, then you just do the last stitch in the back loop as well, but I go through both loops for the last stitch of the row, and I do that in every row for this portion of the work. So as you can see, I have one stitch left. I could just go through both loops like that, and I do my single crochet. That's the end of our row 2. Okay, and then we're going to start row 3. So this second row here is your repeat row, and I'm going to do 22 rows all together, and that's going to be enough to cover my wrist here, and enough looseness that it's comfortable, not too tight to a point where it cuts my circulation. I like to leave it a little bit loose here. Also sometimes, so that if I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt, let's say I'm wearing a thin long sleeve shirt like this one that I have on right now, I cannot pull it too far down my wrist because I have a sweat on top, so it's holding it tight. But if I was to have this, I like to put my wrist warmer, especially if it's a real cold day, over my long sleeve shirt, just to give a better coverage, and that doesn't allow too much wind to go through. But that's a preference of mine, so you don't have to do it the same way. But either way, you have to do the amount of rows that will cover your wrist comfortably, however comfortable you want it to be. Okay, so for the third row, you chain 1, you turn your work, and then you just continue to repeat the same thing you did in row 2, which is pick up the back of the loop from the very first stitch and do your single crochet stitch, and you just repeat this until you get to the end. Okay, so I'm gonna have you guys do the number of rows you require for yours to cover your wrist, and then come back when you have that, and we will move on to the next step together. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and completed my 22 rows here for my wrist warmer. So again, this is just the part that's going to go on like this. Okay, and so I'm going to be working upwards like this to build the rest of it, and let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so after the number of rows that you've completed and you would have worked up like this, we're just going to tilt our work this way, so we're going to be working up that way this time. Okay, and to do so, we're just going to establish a number of rows, like a row here, to be able to put our stitches into. And that row is just going to be a row of half double crochet. And I'm just going to do a chain 1 here. So after you do your chain 1, and then you turn your work like this. And then we're just going to go ahead and do a row of half double crochet right here. Okay. And again, what we're doing here is there's no actual stitches to work into. So we're putting a stitch. One stitch goes in this section that dents inwards, and one goes on top, one goes here, one goes on top, one goes here. And that's how we usually kind of, or at least how I usually work when I'm working on this side, because this is also a very common way to do sweater, sleeves for sweater, where you want the wrist section to have this pattern, and then the rest of it is just another pattern, another stitch. So I'm just gonna do the half double crochets all across here until you get to the end, and then when you get to the end, you come back and I will show you guys how to do the puff stitches. Okay, so see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so as you can see here, I have completed just a simple row across like this of the half double crochet stitches, and now we have some stitches to be able to work into to create our puff stitches. Okay, so that's gonna be the majority of the project is gonna be the puff stitches, and then we're gonna finish it off with some single crochet stitches at the end, just to snatch in the end a little bit. But for the next couple of rows, we're going to do the puff stitches. So here I'm just going to do a chain of 2 and turn. Okay, and in this next stitch, so not this first one here, this second one. Okay, so not this one but this one, I'm going to do a puff stitch, and to do a puff stitch, I'm going to yarn over, go into that stitch, bring it back in. I have 3 loops on the hook like that, yarn over again, go into the same stitch, bring the yarn back. I have 5 stitches on the hook, 5 loops on the hook, yarn over again, go into that same space, bring it back, and I have 7 loops on the hook. So 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. When I have my 7, I yarn over and I go through all 7, and I chain 1 to lock it in. Okay, so that's my puff stitch here. See that? And then for the next, I skip this stitch here. In the next stitch, I do another puff stitch. So yarn over, go through it, yarn over, go through the same stitch, and then for the third time yarn over, go into the same stitch. You have 7 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through all 7, chain 1 to lock it in. Okay, and then you skip this stitch. In the next one you do your puff stitch, and be careful with this yarn. If you have the same yarn, these very shiny threads that they put in here, they can be a little bit they can kind of hook on your hook, and then it's hard to pull. So be careful with those. But anyways, just a tip there, because I just had one happen to me right now. So yarn over again, do that until you have 7 loops on the hook, and then yarn over, go through all 7 loops, and then chain 1 to lock it in. Okay, so as you can see here, these are the puff stitches that we're doing, and we're going to repeat this across until we get to the end. So go ahead, wherever you do your last puff stitch here, come back, and then I will show you guys how to finish that row off and then start the second row, and which is going to be the repeat until we have a number of rows to pretty much almost finish it off, and then we will complete the end with a little bit of a tighter stitch to bring it in a little bit. Okay, so finish this and then come back when you get to the end. Okay, my lovelies, so I've completed this first row here of the puff stitches, and as you can see, that's how it looks like so far. Okay, so I'm going to do one more final stitch here, and to do that I'm just going to do a double crochet stitch on that end, and that's going to create the same effect as this one on this end, like this. Okay, all right, so we're gonna move on to row 2, and I'm going to do a chain of 2 again and turn, and then I am going to pretty much jump right into this space here and do my puff stitches. Okay, so something like that. So I'm going to lock in my puff stitch here, and then I'm going to move on to the next space. So we're working in the stitches between the puff stitches right now. Okay, just like that, you do your puff stitch, go on to the next space between the puff stitches and do another puff stitch, and then do chain 1 to lock it in. So that's what it looks like on this side. Okay, so you're going to do this again all the way to the end. When you get to the end, come back. So your final puff stitch is going to go in this gap at the end here. So do that and then come back to the video when you have completed that. Okay, so that is the end of our row 2, and that's how it looks like. And then to start our row 3, so this is pretty much a repeat here. So for row 3, you're going to do a chain of 1, chain of 2, sorry, my fault. So chain of 2 here, turn your work, and then do your puff stitches right here. Okay, so you always do a chain 2 at the end. Then you do your puff stitch there, lock it in, then move on to the next stitch, do a puff stitch all the way here. Your final puff stitch will go here, chain 2, repeat what we did, and I'm going to do a total of 8 rows here. Okay, so I have 2 completed. I just started my 3rd row. I'm going to do 8 total. When I have 8 rows of these puff stitches, then I'm going to come back to show you guys how to finish it off. Now again, this is when you would measure how long you want your wrist warmer to go. So this part here we have already established is gonna kind of cover that. And then how long do you want it to go? Sometimes some people like it just right here, in the first knuckle. Some people may like it in the second set of knuckles here. So it's all up to you. So I'm going to do 8 rows of this, and then when I have that, I come back and I'll show you guys how to finish it off at the tip. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I've gone ahead and completed my 8 rows in the puff stitches here. So as you can see, that's how it looks so far. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to the next step, which is to do about 4 rows of the half double crochet here, and those rows are going to bring it in a little bit so that it kind of gets narrow as it goes towards our fingers. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you 1 row of that, and then you can do the rest of it on your own. And then when we're done, we will be able to then fold it and join it together, and that will be the end of the project. Okay, and of course you're going to be doing the second one as well, and then after you've done the second one, then you know the project will be at the end. Okay, all right, so we have this here. I have done the chain 1 to lock in the puff stitch there, and I'm just going to do another chain one and then turn, and then I'm going to go right into this space here and do my half double crochet just like that, and then I'm going to go into this stitch here and do a half double crochet again, and then I'm going to go right into this space and do my half double crochet there, and then I'm going to go into the next stitch, do a half double crochet, and then instead of going into this stitch, I'm just going through the hole. So there's this stitch that is right above this gap, and instead of going into that stitch, I just go into the big gap there, which kind of just makes it, it's the same thing, it just kind of goes into the big space. Okay, so you just go do this all the way to the end, and when you get to the end, come back to the video, and then I'll show you how to do the second row of those 4 rows that we're doing, and then I'll have you guys do the rest on your own. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and I will meet you guys when you get to the end. Okay, so that's the first row there completed for the half double crochet stitch, and then I'm going to do chain 1 and turn my work, and for this row we're going to go through the back to do our half double crochet. So we're doing back loop half double crochet. Okay, and this is just going to create a little bit of a rib pattern for the top of our wrist warmer, and you do this all the way until you get to the end. When you get to the end, you chain 1, you repeat this, so do 3 rows of this, and then for the final row we're going to do single crochet stitch, and you're going to go through both loops to do that, not the back of the loop, but do 3 of these rows. So we have 2 now, so I'm working on my second, then do a third one, and then come back when you've done your third one, and we'll do the final one together, which is the single crochet stitch in both loops. And then that should be done for that, and then we will go ahead and join our work together, as well as creating the thumb hole. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I've completed my third row of the half double crochet stitch here. So as you can see, it has a little bit of a finished design here. Okay, and then for the fourth one, we're just going to do a simple single crochet stitch, and as you can see, I've already done my chain 1 here and then turn, and then I'm just going to do single crochet stitch, and I'm going through both loops for this final row of the work, and I just go ahead and do the single crochet stitches all the way to the end. So go ahead and do the same, and when you've completed that, then we will go ahead and put our work together, and that should be the end of this project. Okay, for this, I keep saying that, but there's still one more to complete. I'm saying that because you will complete the second one offline, and if you don't remember, of course, you just rewind the video and repeat by creating the second one the same way that we did this first one. But after that, then we're done the project. Okay, so I'm just heading to the end here. Okay, so there you go. So that's our final row here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut the yarn off here. Okay, and then I'm gonna chain 1 and lock it in like so. Okay, so that's how your wrist warmer should look like before it's put together like this. Okay, so I'm going to be joining it like this, and you're going to, at this moment, you're going to measure to see where you will put your thumb. I'm probably going to put my thumb hole right about here. Okay, so go ahead and section out where you want to put your thumb hole, and make sure it's the right size for your thumb hole, and then we're going to join it from here. So I'll show you how I'm going to do that. So I'll bring my darning needle into the camera here. Okay, and then I'm just gonna, and you can fold your work whichever way, the other way or this way, doesn't make a big difference. And we're just going to go ahead and start joining it, and I'm going to go from this section down here, so which is the very first stitch, and then connect it to the other side. Okay, and then I'm going to do one more in that same stitch. That just kind of secures the work there for me. And then I'm going to just line up the stitches and go through both loops and connect the work, and all the stitches should match up because we have the same number of stitches on this side here and on this side. And then here we're just going to wing it because it's the section that doesn't have particular stitches, like this section here where you can see the stitches where you want to line up your sewing. Okay, so just do this until you get to where you want your thumb hole, and then I will show you guys how to leave out the thumb hole. But I'll take you guys to right here, and then from there I will let you guys do the sewing until you get to the thumb hole. Okay, so as you can see here, I finished doing the sections where you can actually see the stitches, and now I am in the section where I don't really see stitches. So what I will do is I'll just pretty much kind of wing it by just picking up some yarn on each side, or some sections from one side to the other. Make sure you're not taking too much of the work. Just grab a little bit and then grab a little bit on the opposite side. Okay, and then you just kind of do something like this. Make sure it's not too gappy, but make sure it's not too close to each other either. Kind of imitate the length or the distance between the stitches on the sides that actually have stitches. So just something like this. Okay, so go ahead and do this until you get to where you want to leave your thumbnail. I'm probably gonna leave my thumbnail around here, like between these two puff stitches here. Okay, so that will be my thumbnail, and then when I get to, so I'll sew and then get to the thumbnail and then come back to you guys, and then we will kind of work on that together. Okay, see you guys in a bit. Okay, so I've reached the section where I'm gonna leave my thumb hole, and like I said, that section here is going to be where I leave my thumb hole. Okay, so what I will do in the last stitch that I did, I'm just gonna do one more stitch like that, and just to make sure I secure it fully here, I'll go in like this and put my yarn around. It just creates a little bit of a stronger part here. And now that I have that, I'm going to go in from that side, just kind of weave in my yarn to bring it back to the side that I'm at, and then just weave it in and continue to weave it going up this way until I get to where I want to do the thumbnail. Okay, or the thumb hole. Okay, so this is right about where I want to do the thumb hole. I'll go one more inch this way. Okay, so if I line my work up like this, okay, there you go. So from here I'm going to go from this side to the opposite side, just like that, and do one more in the same space. Okay, and then from here on I just go across, and I will go ahead and finish it off by going through to the other side, and then just finish it off here. So you're just gonna continue sewing these sections shut until you get to here, and then when you get there, then come back and we'll be done. Okay, so I have pretty much gone up to the end here. So just make sure you're weaving it in properly, so that, or you're going to the very end of the final stitches here, so that you don't have a gap that will come up here when you finish. Okay, so I have that at the end. I'm just gonna cut this yarn here, and then I'm going to weave in my yarn. So for now I'm just gonna tie it, knot it here so I can secure that section, and then I will weave that in. But that's it here. So that's how our wrist warmer looks. This is our thumb hole here, and if I go ahead and put it on, then this is how my wrist warmer looks. Okay, so this is the design here. Super nice. I love the puff stitches gapping up like that when you put it on. And that's the wrist section. This is the inside of your palm. Okay, obviously ignore these tails of yarn hanging here. I need to weave that in. So this is it. So you're gonna go ahead and duplicate this. So you can always rewind the video and rewatch it from the beginning if you forgot how to start it. But you're just gonna repeat the exact same thing we just did with this and duplicate and get the second one done. I'm gonna do the same, and when that's done, I'm gonna come back to the video and show you guys how the completed pair looks like. Okay, so go ahead and do that, and I will see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, so I have gone ahead and completed my second wrist warmer here. So I have both of them completed, and as you can see here, they look absolutely beautiful. I love this pattern so much. And yeah, this is how they look. I'm just gonna put them on for you guys so you guys can see how they look. I think I may have to take my ring out because it's gonna pull the yarn, especially the puff stitches here. My ring has a section that is a sharp, so I'm just gonna remove my ring and then put it on. And if I go ahead and pull this guy in like this, that's how it looks like. And then I'm gonna put the second one on. Okay, there you go. So these are the completed pair, and as you can see, they fit me just like a glove, no pun intended. But yeah, they're pretty much done here. Pretty good. Yeah, and very easy to do. This took me just about a little bit under an hour to complete both pairs, or both of the gloves. And yeah, they look pretty good. So hopefully you guys enjoyed making this project with me, because I surely did. And just to remind you, if you like these type of projects, I have many more things on my channel. So don't forget to subscribe so you can have access to all of the videos that I post. And as well, hit the notification bell so you can be notified of future videos. And of course, comment if you have any questions for me, okay? Thank you so much again for joining me to the end of this video, and I will see you guys on the next one. Kwaheri.